and welcome back to Mindfulness Matters. This is session 5 of 6 of an online demand series to help you stay present and help boost productivity in the workplace and beyond. So today we are going to explore the non-attachment and non-judgment of our thoughts. We're going to look at some fear-based thinking and our attachment to it. We're going to have a look at how that plays out in our day-to-day life through some examples, and we'll go through another guided practice, and there'll also be some takeaway practices for you to experiment with at home. So another quick reintroduction as to who I am. Hopefully you all have an idea by now, but my name is Lily Parkinson, and I have a company called Umiani, where I'm a holistic and intuitive coach. I am a registered nutritional therapist. I work with EFT, NLP, and CBT, and I'm also a Reiki practitioner, and I work with both private and corporate clients. So there's a quick recap on where we've got to so far. We have looked at the breath. We have looked at how we can come into presence with using the body, using our 5 senses, tuning in through our 5 senses, and how our thoughts affect us, and if we're not aware of them, they can become our own worst enemy. And today we're going to go even deeper through this idea of non-attachment and non-judgment of our thoughts. So looking at non-attachment, when we take one thing at a time, one moment, one experience, or one step, one day at a time, we release the need to achieve something that's fixed or specific. We release the need to control things by living through this moment-to-moment awareness. We enter this flow state that I've talked about briefly before, and things flow better. We can make better decisions. We can sense make a little bit better. And the idea is that we're releasing this need to achieve something fixed and specific, because this can become really unhelpful and destructive to our everyday lives if we're always reaching for something. So when we live from this place where we are needing to achieve something fixed and specific, or we're trying to control something, things happen too quickly. We want things to happen quickly. We want things to unfold in a certain and particular way. We want to get that out of the way so we can move on to the next thing, and then the next. We get fixed on wanting things to be the certain way, wanting to control them, and we're not letting the present moment, and we're not letting the journey or the experience unfold. And the journey is really where we find that peace, that centeredness, that joy, because a lot of the time we get somewhere and we don't know how we've achieved it, we don't know how we've got there, and we get here and we kind of think, oh, that wasn't as I thought I wanted it to be. It wasn't as I'd imagined it was going to be. And so then we find the next thing and we grasp onto that, we anchor to that, for example. But we're not anchoring mindfully to it. We are anchoring to this fixed position that we want to be in because we think it's going to bring us happiness. We think it's going to bring us something that we can't find right now. But through mindfulness, we can find that now. So, as we've discussed, the past can distract us and rule us. It can also be destructive. But we have to remember that now the past has been replaced by different experiences, by new experience. That experience that happened in the past is now finished, it's gone. Okay? And we have to practice non-attachment and non-judgment to those past experiences. Yes, they happened and we can't necessarily ignore them, but now is not the time to focus on them. we are now focused on the present moment. We have to let go of the need or the automatic response of bringing them into our now and then therefore affecting our present. And we also grasp to our pleasant experience, when we have fun with friends or family, we say, let's do this again, but again is never the same, because there are lots of different things at play which make it different. We're different moment to moment. We change, we evolve, we grow. Another example is you eat a delicious donut and you think, oh, I want to experience that again. But by the time you're eating the second or the third or the fourth donut, you're not having that same experience. It's not as tasty. We're hoping to repeat the initial response of deliciousness to that experience, but it just doesn't exist. Okay? And maybe if you're trying again in a week, it's going to be completely different. Even if it's the same donut, you're not going to experience it in the same way. And we need to let go of the fact that, why is it different from that experience, or why isn't it so tasty? And so hopefully from these examples you can begin to understand on where we attach ourselves to our past. So by letting go of these attachments, we can begin to see things for how they really are. We can gain a sense of freedom and non-judgment towards our experience, whether it be around tasks or situations or specific people, for example. So attachment to thoughts and fear. So we are all attached to our thoughts, whether it's purposefully or unpurposefully. This is how we have lived most of our lives. We have kind of got into this habit and it's quite hard to break. But when we become attached to our thoughts, we get stuck in a vicious cycle. And especially when they're negative or unhelpful thoughts, and this is when they can become destructive. So by looking at fear then, we're all human and we all experience fear. It's natural and sometimes it's necessary for us. I've used the example of a fire before, but if we sense or we know that there's a fire and that we're in danger, naturally our body goes into fight or flight mode, and it aids us. It helps us take action on something. It helps us alert people. It helps us react in a specific way that if we weren't responding to that fear, could put us in a really dangerous situation. It could be detrimental to us. But fear can also be detrimental in its own ways. When we get stuck into this cycle of how this fear it presents itself and how it then affects us in our future. Stress is born from fear and anxiety in the most part, and we all experience stress. It's the most common emotion that we all feel, and we feel it a lot of the time. Sometimes most days, most hours in the days, So it's nothing to be worried about, it's completely normal. But what we're looking at is how we can change our experience when we do feel this stress. And we get stressed because perhaps we are fearful that, if what we're doing isn't done in a specific way, isn't done in a specific time frame, it's going to affect something in our future. So if we relate this to in the workplace, you might be stressed because you're fearful that if you don't get this particular thing done in time, you're going to be called into your boss's office. You're going to lose that client, you're going to do a bad job. And this fear might be based on conditioning. So maybe this has happened in the past, or it can be related to something, let's say your mother was scared of spiders, and we grow up seeing that our parents or or your mum you're scared of spiders, and so you kind of are conditioned to have the same fear response, and you become scared of spiders. Now, if your mum's scared of spiders and you're not, then that's great, but there are perhaps some other instances, some other areas of your life where you've picked up other people's fears, and this is called, and this is what I refer to as, this is our conditioning, and it's no one's fault. This is just how it happens. We learn from the people and the environments around us. And so when we're stressed or in fear or feeling anxious, we create fear-based emotions, and when we feel this emotion, it's very uncomfortable, and it can create a more emotionally charged emotion. So we're fearful, and we're aware that we're fearful, and then it becomes an emotionally charged feeling and sense of fear. And this emotionally charged fearful thinking then creates additional emotion, which we then have to deal with. And you see how it starts to build, and over time this can affect us quite significantly. And this is because fearful thinking vibrates at the same energy frequency as fearful emotions. It literally feeds on it. Our minds feed on this frequency, and sometimes no matter how hard we try, we can't stop sometimes. And so we become trapped in this vicious cycle of fearful thinking. It's causing the emotional fear that raises into our minds and causes the emotionally charged fearful thinking. And when we're here, we cannot process or function, we cannot make decisions, we cannot sense make on what's happening around us, what is happening in our experience right in this moment. And then you get even more emotionally charged and heightened responses within the cycle. So one way to kind of lessen this or remove this is the non-attachment and non-judgmental thoughts that we have towards it, but it's also doing this can be done through acceptance and approval of the fear that we feel. We need to let it go by being aware of it. We can allow ourselves to take steps to let it go. So in practice, in our daily lives, we need to realize that the destructive nature of our thoughts, the futility of our thoughts, we need to come to them with awareness. And I touched on this in the last session, but we can't just replace our negative thoughts with positive thoughts, or negative emotions with positive emotions. It just isn't as simple as that. So what we do is, instead of engaging with this negative pattern or stream of thinking, we have to let go of the attachment. We let go of the cycle that we're in, and we come back to the awareness. We come back to the presence of the now, this moment, because that's all there ever is, the present moment. And we're always going to experience unhappiness, anxiety, fears, same as we will always experience happiness and joy and love and grief and all of our emotions, and we're always going to face challenges and adversity. But it is our decision, our responsibility, if you like, to step into our power, to step into this embodiment or centeredness or groundedness that I've been speaking about. It's our decision to do that, just as we have a decision to stay in that previous thinking pattern and feeling like everything is against us. So when we do step into this power, we do this by accepting approval. And, you know, even despite what's happening, this adversity, you know, we find the peace and the joy from this place, because, you know, we're not challenging that fearful stream of thinking. We acknowledge that it's there. We're not replacing it. We're acknowledging it's there. By acknowledging it and approving that it's happened or that it's happening, then it brings a level of peace rather than fighting against it the whole time and trying to control it. So, with this newfound peace or joy, despite whatever's happening, you know, we can really become empowered in our own lives. You know, the approval or the action of accepting and improving thoughts or emotions helps to transmute the energy of those thoughts and emotions, such as fear, to the presence and to awareness. And then it doesn't become fear anymore. It doesn't become grief anymore. It just becomes an intense awareness of what is happening in your experience. And so within this, we need to really check in with our thoughts and look at what we're grasping at. We looked at the last session at, you know, what kind of things may be traveling through our minds. And so now we're going to look at what we're grasping to, you know, what thoughts, opinions, emotions, beliefs, situations are affecting us, what are we grasping to? And do you notice actually their unsubstantiality and their instability? Because as we know, moment to moment, everything changes. Maybe small shifts, but things change. No moment is ever the same. In each moment, something is evolving, something is changing, transforming. And so by understanding that some thoughts can be, or some of your thoughts are absent and your beliefs are unstable in the way that, you know, things change, and you may know from yourself how over the years or over the weeks your views and your emotions change. So by letting go of the need to grasp on to something specific, we're letting go of our self-limitations that we are creating for ourselves by holding on to these thoughts. So what does this look like in practice? So you may be stressed because you have to get a report finished to send to a potential customer so you can convert them into a client. Now, the first layer of fear is, if I don't get this done, I'm not going to convert the prospect, so therefore I might not hit my target for this month. Meanwhile, your body might be tensing, you might be becoming erratic, you might be becoming a bit short-tempered. You then might reach for a coffee or a sugary biscuit that is probably going to stress your body even more. Okay, and so it becomes to really get into this territory of being emotionally charged. This fear is rising, and you probably don't understand that it's fear or where it's coming from, but you just know that you're really stressed right now. And, you know, underneath this, more fearful emotions are arising. Again, you might not be conscious of them, but, you know, there might be some underlying fears, such as if you don't hit your target, you're not going to get your bonus. And, you know, actually, worse than that, you might lose your job. And if you lose your job or you don't hit your bonus, then you're not going to have money. And if you don't have any money, then this threatens your ability to provide shelter for yourself, to provide food for yourself, you know, and it might affect your relationship. It might actually on a deeper level affect your self-esteem. And so with all of this threatened, you start really hitting these core fears, such as, your self-esteem of being worthy. Now, this is quite deep work, so please bear with me. But hopefully you can see where I'm getting to, where all of these fears kind of lead on, and perhaps unconsciously we're projecting into the future of what might happen if one thing doesn't happen, and that one thing, still hasn't happened. You're still in this present moment. So these deeper layers you might not be conscious of, and but are on subconsciously this is happening. And this is what's creating this really highly emotionally charged, fearful-based emotions. The stress is building. And if this occurs a lot of the time, this is how some people end up suffering with perhaps anxiety or depression, or a relationship with addictive substances like coffee, cigarettes, sugar, food, alcohol, or sometimes more severe. Or sometimes people can act in ways like they can get very angry very quickly because they're not able to process these emotions. They're not able to understand these emotions or use what's happening in their sense perceptions to make sense of what is happening right now. So, what can mindfulness do to change this? Well, using the same example, so you're stressed because you have to get the report finished to send to a potential customer so you can convert them to a client. Now, using mindfulness, perhaps you're using the anchoring of your breath, you become aware of what's happening around you. You come into the present moment. And you now might notice your thoughts that are going through your mind. You notice how your thoughts are, or your thinking, that it may affect your target. But as you're breathing, your body is becoming more relaxed. You're coming into awareness of what's happening right now, the stress, this fear, these thoughts that are unhelpful, and you're aware that they're unhelpful. They're actually slowing you down. You're making mistakes, you're cutting corners. And you're aware of the fear. You're aware of your body's reactions. Maybe you've got clammy hands, or you can't sit still, okay? Maybe your heart rate is faster. But as you're breathing, you're calming the system down, okay? And you're just accepting that right now you're fearful that, or you're aware that you need to get this done, because it may or may not have consequences. And you're in approval that you're feeling this pressure, and you can accept it. And the underlying fear is okay. And actually you can use it to put you into a proactive frame of mind. You can act from a more focused frame of mind when you're aware of it. And right now you're doing what you can to the best of your ability. So through this, your decision-making ability is improved. You've become more composed, you're more focused. You don't know what might happen in the future. So, why worry about it? You need to focus on what's happening right now, because all there is now. And in now, you know what you have to do. So right now there is no immediate threat. And with this awareness, you might still be feeling the pressure, but you're level-headed. Your stress level is lower than it normally would be. And you're breathing still. And instead of reaching for that coffee or a Kit Kat or a biscuit of your choice, packet of crisps perhaps, instead you are reaching for a glass of water. Okay, and water is essential for our bodies and can keep us focused and more alert. So you reach for a glass of water and you are able to stay more composed and finish the work that you're doing. and you can engage in what you're doing from this more balanced and centered place. And if these thoughts keep cropping up, what if, or this is going to happen, then you just keep breathing. Okay, just keep breathing. You may look out the window, you may look at nature, what's around you, and become aware of what's happening right now. So hopefully those two examples have resonated with you a little bit. And what we're trying to do is make the emotion that you're feeling part of your experience. Once you accept it as part of the totality that you're living, this is where you can find the peace. That's where you become more centered, because you're aware of it and it's okay still. It's a really powerful place to be. And you find your power and you become empowered, and you're accepting the present moment as it is, internally and externally. All of the benefits that we've discussed, what mindfulness can do, are going to come to you. So let's go into a quick guided practice, and this is the practice of equanimity. So if you can find a comfortable seat with both feet connected to the floor, sitting tall and with your hands resting lightly in your lap, you're welcome to close your eyes or keep them open. I recommend closing them so that you can be a little bit more concentrated. So as we sit here, I want you to connect to your breath, becoming aware of the natural rhythm of your breath. In this moment, what are you grasping to? What are you grasping at? Is it a thought? Is it an opinion? A judgment, perhaps? Can you notice the instability, the unsubstantiality of it? Let it go. Keep breathing. Keep breathing with a spacious mind where any thoughts, emotions, opinions, they become bubbles floating in and out of the awareness. And if you are grasping perhaps to a sensation, try and look deeply within that sensation. Notice how it isn't fixed. It's not solid. It physically cannot be grasped. You cannot become attached to it. And if it's a feeling that you're grasping at, notice how fleeting and changeable it is as each moment passes. We cannot reduce ourselves to it. It does not define us. Perhaps you are grasping at a loved one. A friend. Can you dissolve that attachment? Still caring deeply, but without any expectations, without the attachment, without the need to control or have things be the way that you want them to be. And perhaps you are grasping or thinking of a particular person or situation, perhaps a challenging one, something that's been bugging you. Can you see that you limit yourself by magnifying this situation, the challenges that are presented through this person or experience? Can you see that through your attachment, you are unable to move forward? And whilst we breathe and explore this, just repeat silently or out loud to yourself. May I accept things as they are in this moment. May I be open to this experience. May I be centered and grounded. May I find equanimity and peace. Now we're just going to extend this practice of equanimity and peace to someone else. Try sending it to a neutral person, perhaps someone you work with, or perhaps it can be to a certain situation, something that's happening around you. And also to someone or something that challenges you, pushes your buttons, maybe you dislike. Think of these things and people in your mind's eye and repeat. May we accept things as they are in this moment. May we be open to this experience. May we be centered and grounded. And may we find equanimity and peace. And you can continue this practice by also extending these words to all beings, things on the planet. And coming back, slowly blinking your eyes open. Just checking in with yourself, how you feel in your body, in your mind, in this moment, as you're feeling more empowered, more centered, more peaceful. As always, you can practice this anywhere, anytime. Just got to remember to practice it, So, thank you for joining me for today's session and through that guided practice. Some exercise for you to use and experiment with at home. So, remembering that anchor that we spoke about in the past few sessions and finding that and using that in times of adversity and challenge and when we're feeling stressed. And practicing this practice that we've just been through, equanimity, practice the acceptance, practice the letting go and non-attachment to specific thoughts or experiences. It's really gonna create more space in your life to be able to focus on what you need to. And again, if anyone did try their hand at journaling from the last session, then well done. Hopefully it's proved of benefit to you. If you haven't yet, then I really encourage you to just try. It can be really, really interesting and effective tool. I do it daily, and actually find it really great before going to bed if you have trouble sleeping, because it's just a way of getting out all of these thoughts that maybe you might have because you've got things to do tomorrow and you don't want to forget, or things that you've been mulling over. If you just get them down on paper, they kind of jump out of your mind and onto the paper, and you can have a bit more of a relaxed and peaceful sleep. So thanks again for joining me, and I will see you soon.